And not to take it fully into the domain of relationships, but something I often hear about online is just the importance of men and women working together, complementing one another, not being the same, and that there is that need for some sense of polarity in terms of masculinity and femininity, and leaning into biologically who we're sort of made to be. And so, given everything that you've shared about leaning back into our hormones and our biology and working with our bodies rather than against them, what, and I guess this is a bit more of a philosophical question, but what does it actually mean to be, in your eyes, a feminine woman, given everything that society tries to tell women in one direction or another?
Okay, I love that because I figured that out for me. So obviously, I'm going to come from what it means to me, and it can mean something different to everyone else. For me, being a woman, having being embodied in both of my masculine and my feminine, is knowing when to give it, to give the percentage of what it needs to come out. So, for example, in my partnership, like there's a day where I'm only being able to show up 20% and I'm more in my feminine and less in my masculine. And I come to my partner, I was like, how much percentage do you have today? And he's like, I got 10. I was like, okay, we can work with that. I'm going to have to be a little bit more masculine today. But the other days, it changes. And I really feel embodied in that because my feminine energy and my masculine energy really show up the way they need to and when they need to. And also in my cycle, I know when masculine shows up more and when I dominate with that, and when feminine shows up more and I dominate with that. I feel like it's just being able to fluctuate with what you need daily and not feeling like you have a strict way of behaving. Like flowing with who you are is really what like I feel like being a woman is, and not being ashamed or scared of being in a different energy daily and having to adapt to what your partner also has and being okay to show up more one day, show up less one day. I feel like that's just the perfect balance for me.
In terms of, I guess, feeling more feminine, not I'm not asking specifically about you, but in terms of in general patterns that you've noticed, um, are there trends in terms of when that is in the cycle and when women feel like they have to be more masculine, or maybe they don't even feel like they have to be more masculine, but
They just
they
are.
are.
Yeah. Yes. I think there's always a need for feminine energy all day every single day of your life. And what I mean with feminine energy, how I see feminine energy is nurturing, supporting, self-care, tending. That is what feminine energy is. It's more a group thing, is more a support thing, is more a taking care of yourself thing. And so when you really need to tap into that is the luteal phase and the menstrual phase. That is the phase that your body is screaming for you to be more in your feminine. In your follicular and ovulatory phase, your body is screaming for you to just be on the go, socialize, be selfish, have fun. And that's when the masculine energy just show up like naturally. That's what it looks like in a cycle. But then again, I think every woman needs to tap into what they feel good with and what is their experience because no woman has the same cycle. We all have different cycles in terms of length. So that means that maybe someone has a really short follicular phase, a really short ovulatory phase, or maybe a really long luteal phase. So we're all kind of tapping into how long we need these energies for. And that's up to you to recognize by first starting to track your cycle, understanding how long you are in these phases. Once you get into the flow, like, okay, I'm in this phase, I'm in the next phase, then you really start syncing small things. Maybe start with nutrition, then maybe start with exercise because that's just easy. And then start understanding the more complexities of the emotions that come in those phases and support them, support the emotions.
And coming to support, I guess our whole conversation hopefully has been interesting for men and women listening, and particularly useful for women. But in terms of the guys who may be listening to this podcast, the question I kind of wanted to come into the end of the podcast with is, what can men do, both in terms of when they are single with their female friends or with family members who are women, but I suppose particularly with their in their relationships or in their marriages, what can men do to support and enable and help alongside women in this journey of understanding more about their own body and cycle, and also just knowing then how to give care and respond to things in different ways. I mean, I know we touched on it briefly, but in terms of a general prescription towards men, what would you say?
I think it's important for men to also want to be curious and want to understand their partner and their friends, and understanding that the woman that you have in front of you will change every time that you're with her. Like, we don't wake up in the morning thinking exactly the same as the day before. And how you can support us best is by asking questions on how I want to receive, and starting to also memorize some specific things about certain parts of each cycle, of each phase of the cycle, especially if you're in a relationship. If you're not in a relationship, okay, it's a bit harder to get there. But if you are in a relationship, it's also encouraging your partner to share more of how she feels differently with you throughout those phases. Like, what are you noticing that you need more in this phase? Or what are you noticing that we could do more in this phase? Or how would you like to receive more of my support this phase? For example, let me bring it up to me, because that's what I can say with confidence. With my partner is, I always tell him, I'm going to my luteal phase. I'm about to want to be with my own energy a little bit more. I'm about to want to feel a bit more safer in my environment, because things could trigger me a bit easier. He knows that, for example, if he wants to have fun socializing with me somewhere, that's not going to be the late luteal phase. So he's not about to suggest, let's go out for dinner with friends today. He knows that, like, I'm not going to receive that well, and I'm going to feel weird that I don't want to do it. So it's about getting to a point where you fully understand the woman in the cycle too, by asking her questions. I don't expect you to know anything. It needs to come out of her mouth too. So just be curious, ask her questions, support her the way she needs. Also know that if she needs for alone, she asks for alone time, it's important for her. She's not trying to avoid you. She needs to recover, re-energize, so that can show up for you too. Um, yeah, that's what I would say.
Really, what you're describing is just healthy, open communication
Communication.
rather than making assumptions in any direction.